Now, seed plants is our next group of plants, and these are the most plentiful plants in the biosphere. And the seeds have a sporophyte embryo, and it stores its food within a protective seed coat. This allows the embryo to survive harsh conditions during what's called torpor, or long periods of dormancy. They are heterosporous. They have microspores and megaspores, and the microspores develop into drought-resistant pollen grains, so it's the male gametophyte. And the megaspores develop in an ovule, and it becomes the seed during fertilization, so it's the female gametophyte. And here you can see examples of seed plants. You've got the coniferous forest with the conifers. You've got the lodgepole pine here, and then you've got a juniper. And you see they have seed cones and pollen cones that we're looking at. Now, gymnosperms, gymno means naked. So gymnosperms have a naked seed. Their seeds are not enclosed by fruit. There's about 780 species, and we divide these into 4 groups. We have conifers, which we have 575 species that bear cones. We have cycads. We have about 140 species of these. They're native to the tropics, and the pollen cones and the seed cones are on different plants. Then we have ginkgos, and there's only one surviving species of ginkgo, and the plant either produces male or female reproductive structures, but not both. And then there are gnetophytes. The G is silent, and there's 70 species of these, and some of them produce nectar. Now, looking at our conifers, as well as other gymnosperms, they bear cones. That's where conifer cone. They have tough needle-like leaves, and that helps them conserve water, and they have a thick cuticle and recessed stomata. So the openings on the underside of the leaf are recessed in there, and that lets the water and the carbon dioxide and oxygen move through, and then they have that cuticle to conserve the water. Sporophyte generation is the dominant. The pollen grains are going to be windblown, and the seed is the dispersal stage. They are monoecious. That means they produce either pollen cones or seed cones, not both. If you look in your textbook on page 105, you'll see the pine life cycle, which is an example of a conifer. Now, here is number 1 at the top, where the pollen cone, that's a lot smaller than the seed cone, it develops near the tips of the lower branches. And you've got the seed cones, which are the larger ones. Those are the pine cones that we think of, and they're near the tips of the higher branches. And you've got pollen sacs, where the pollen cone has 2 pollen sacs, and that's the microsporangia that lie on the underside of each scale in that cone. And the microspores are within that pollen sac. And so meiosis produces 4 microspores. And you see here that develop into the pollen grains. And it has 2 wings that will carry it by wind to the seed cone for pollination. Now, looking at the seed cone, it has 2 ovules, and the ovules are the megasporangia, and they lie on the upper surface of each scale. And the microspores, the megaspores will, within each ovule, meiosis is going to produce, I keep losing my mouse, 4 megaspores, but only 1 survives. And you see here, why is it moving? Right here is the megaspore. Only 1 survives. And once the pollen grain reaches it, because remember it's going to blow by the wind, the pollen tube digests its way slowly towards the female gametophyte and discharges 2 sperm, but they are not flagellated. They don't have any flagella. One of them fertilizes an egg, and you have the zygote that is produced. And after fertilization, that ovule matures and becomes the seed. And inside that seed is the embryo and some reserve food, as well as the seed coat. And it's woody and hard. And when it opens, it releases these seeds that are winged, and it germinates into the sporophyte. Now, what do we use pine for? Obviously, we do a lot of construction. We build a lot of things out of pine. We also use it for Christmas decorations in gardens and parks. It's also used for medicine in some places because it's rich in vitamins A and C. They use it in cough and cold medicines. Pine oil is used obviously because it's got a nice scent, but it's also used in cleaning. And the resin is harvested in turpentine, which is a fungal preventative and an insect deterrent. Now our cycads, these have leaves that grow in clusters at the top of the stem. They're very large, divided leaves. They are dioecious. They have pollen and seed cones on separate plants. The insects pollinate these, not wind. And you have sperm that are multiflagellated that have to swim to reach the egg. Ginkgos, as we said, there's only one remaining species. They are dioecious. Some produce seeds and some produce pollen. The ones that produce the seeds have a horrific smell. It's not pleasant. If you look here at the picture here that's in the little oval circle, that is an ovule on the tip of it. And those white things hanging down, those are the seeds. Now the gnatophytes have 3 living genera. Ephedra is the one that's most notable. This is ephedra, and you know if you take Sudafed, it's got ephedrine in it. It comes from the ephedra. If you'll look on page 105, you'll see several others.